What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So today I was watching MSNBC and Joe Scarborough and Mika, I think is her name, and they had this guy, and I looked him up. He was actually from a conservative think tank, but of course he was, and he was commenting on, well, what conservatives? No, Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Bros. Now, this same conversation that I saw take place, I've seen on CNN, Fox News, you name it. Local news channels, I've even seen a few, because they want to talk about the Bernie Bro, the elusive Bernie Bro. What are they? What are they doing? Who are they hurting? How can we stop them? Better yet, how can we frame them as being racist sexists? Well, we'll get into that. See, this guy, he comes out and he says, these Bernie Bros are problematic. They've been known to target people of color and women online and bash them and harass them. He said that he had made remarks about Bernie Sanders. And of course, he didn't give the details. And he said, after I got off the show, I noticed that I was at mentioned at Twitter with thousands of people harassing me. It's because you were wrong, buddy. It's called standing up for your candidate. But regardless, now here's the examples he used for the people of color and the women that us Bernie bros are just assaulting in droves. Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama. Elizabeth Warren put herself in the sights of the quote unquote Bernie bros uh, by acting, let's not say act, she lied about him being a sexist. The guy from in 1988 who talked to a bunch of little girls and told them to run for president. Yeah, that guy was called a sexist by the original Rachel Dolezal. And she ate shit for it. But that was harassing her because we called her out on it. Didn't mention that somehow Elizabeth Warren has been able to lie consistently for the last decade and no one's called her out on, I don't know, not getting fired for being pregnant, not being an Indian. I'm more, and this is true, I looked into this, I am more Southeastern Asian than she is Native American. And I am very Mexican. I mean, like, I'm straight from El Salvador. No, well, not exactly, but the person of color, Barack Obama, he came out and said, well, if Bernie begins to take a lead. If he starts to show that he might have a chance, then I may have to come out and discuss my concern. Yeah, of course we're gonna go after him. And if you look, I've looked. I went on Twitter and I looked at Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama. The main thing that he was harassed about, quote unquote, was saying, so you approve of Trump before you approve of Bernie Sanders? And the same question we've been asking, who's really fracturing the party? Let's just wipe all of that clean and start with the basic of this Bernie bro attack. And that is, it is completely just wiping out the many people of color and female voters who support Bernie Sanders. Just acting like they don't exist. Oh, no, they're all a bunch of white guys. Oddly enough, I don't even know that many white Bernie supporters, but that's anecdotal, and I get that. And if there is a majority of white male Bernie supporters, number one, that's a good thing. Number two, it's because they're the majority. It's ridiculous to say that the Bernie Sanders supporters are racists or sexists because we stand up for our candidate. And it is kind of funny how I talked about someone like Barack Obama supporting Trump because he's protecting his money. Lion Liz falling into her position by riding the coattails of Bernie Sanders and lying to all of us, acting like she's a progressive. What about Hillary Clinton calling the Obama supporters the Obama boys. How do you think that would have went, if that was Trump doing it? Yeah, pretty sure there would have been a lot of talk about Trump being a racist. But Hillary can do it. The establishment can do it. It's when we come back at them that we get yelled at. Oh my God, I can't believe you're assaulting me. You're harassing me. And I'm not saying like every Bernie Sanders supporter is just, this perfect angel without fault. Yeah, I'm sure there's some Bernie Sanders supporters who are doing some pretty messed up things and saying some pretty messed up things. Anytime you get a large group of people, there's always going to be certain people who go off on and do their own thing and take the party in a direction you're not exactly excited about. But usually these are outliers. What I'm saying is by far the quote unquote Bernie bros needs to stop. Maybe we need to come up with another name. Maybe that's on us. Maybe we should come up with I don't know, the Sanders supporters. I don't know. It's off the top of my head. But we need to come up with our own name. So it can show that the inclusivity of people of color, women, men, Russians. I mean, it's got to stop though because it is hurting not only Bernie and his electability because that's an argument we do have to make, but it's hurting the supporters he has, and it's acting like we're not acknowledging him by continuing to not call out this bullshit of this Bernie bro. And that's one of the things. Like, if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter and you listen to me, take a couple minutes the next time someone says the term Bernie bro and explain to him or her that, look, if you're a Bernie bro is going to stand up for their candidate and for what they believe, no matter if it's a black person, a white person, a woman, whoever is criticizing them, we're going to stand up to them. That doesn't make us racist. That doesn't make us sexist. That makes us principled. And let them know that the Bernie bro term is actually in itself kind of sexist and racist when you think about it, because it's just marginalizing the female supporters and the people of color who support Bernie. In happier news, though, on Thursday, Donald Trump decided that he was going to roll back regulations on the Clean Water Act from 1974. The Clean Water Protection Act was it was a brainchild of Obama's, and him and I believe it was Biden did quite a bit of research into it. The biggest person who's upset by this is J.J. Watt, who's going to have to stop playing football and going to have to spend most of his time now cleaning up riverways with 3 old dudes. No, it's worse than that. Look, we're talking about the coronavirus, and we're talking about the flu and influenza and pneumonia and all these things that are really worrying in our state right now. Everybody's worrying about being sick. Now, oddly enough, with this, and this is not anecdotal, it's true. My wife does this for a living. She is a microbiological engineer, and it's her job to keep the water clean. I asked her about this, and she was explaining, the talk around the water cooler was that there might be, and understand that where they're coming from, it's contamination by percentage, and they think that there might be this kind of this fail safe kind of situation where big cities won't be affected because the rollbacks did not include large cities. It was more waterways, swamplands, rivers, things like that. The thing that she said is there could be, especially if you lived basically down river from a bigger city, the city's water sanitation could actually dissolve the contamination from these other like waterways. From what I understand, from what she said, yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe, but it doesn't cover you if you're um, in Durango, Colorado, or in Monroe, Louisiana. You don't live anywhere near anywhere big, and nothing against Durango or Monroe. I'm sure they're big cities, but my point is there's still going to be millions of people affected by it because essentially what this law does is it says you can pretty much just contaminate these areas and it's not going to be regulated. Now, to a point that Trump feels like we were spending too much money testing this. And I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes by all of the Democratic nominees and Democratic supporters in general for not bringing out the fact that who lives in rural areas? Who lives in wetlands? Who lives near these creeks and rivers? A lot of conservatives. And Trump is saying, hey, I don't want to spend the money on you guys. I don't care. Your kid can grow an extra arm. It's fine. They're not going to give you Medicare for it, so not my problem, It's a serious problem. It really is. As much as I'm joking about it, this could be and could lead to a pandemic like we haven't seen. The one that they keep telling you is happening um, in China right now. It's on its way here, and yes, there's a few more cases. But that pandemic, this this pandemic with the water will make that pandemic look like nothing. It could potentially be one of the most hazardous things to happen to our country as a whole. Because once, and by the way, he signed this in. It happens in 60 days. It's nothing we can do about now. It's already done. Um, I mean, I guess someone could push back on it, but we don't have the power. We really don't, unless the conservatives came out in droves and decided to give a shit about it. But to be honest, I barely heard anyone talking about it. And you and like four of your friends listen to me, so uh, I think the only other guy who's really been talking about it was Bo of the Fifth Column. He has a pretty big platform, but no one on the that lives in that area, I don't think. I mean, maybe some, but for the most part, he's got liberal fans. But the conservatives are gonna have to stand up. They're just not gonna do it. So this is gonna happen, and the biggest problem is once we get somebody with half a brain in there and who cares about our environment, they're gonna have to start up an entire new system. They're gonna have to re-implement all of this, and that could take an ample amount of time. And there's gonna be contamination that just it's contaminated. It's screwed up. We can't fix it. That's the problem with the environment is there's no going back on it. It's like a liver in a way. You can get to a certain point, but then when you keep eating in on it, it's dead. It's done. Game over. And I will say that this hinges on the fact that Donald Trump gave his speech at Davos yesterday, and he went forward in front of these incredibly smart people who know so much about climate, about finance, and these were the two main talking points actually was what we were going to do about the climate crisis we're going to have and the fact that we've reached peak capitalism. Those were the two conversations at Davos. Our president comes in there and starts rambling like Alex Jones and calls these scientists who are talking about climate change profiters of death, and that we should not listen to them because they're pessimists and pessimists are bad. I wish Trump's mom wasn't such a pessimist about taking it in the mouth. Might not have 45 in there right now. That's horrible. Uh, it's sad because that's our president. And that's where we're at. Like, oh yeah, that's our guy. He's the one who's telling these scientists, some of the most intelligent minds in the world who've studied this for 10, 50, 60 years on up, they're wrong. Why? Because he has a filling. Because they're Debbie Downers, and he just can't get with that. Yeah, that's our guy. You know. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think about either one of the stories. I'd love any of your feedback. And I'll keep you guys updated on the Water Protection Act. I believe that there's a potential that this won't go through, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. Everybody's too tied up in impeachment, and not enough voters actually really know about it. But who knows? Look, I said the war had a small light of not happening, and it happened. So I guess we got to start thinking more like Trump and not be pessimists. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good evening.